So yes, so good evening. About bad internet. So everything that is recorded on YouTube is recorded, so you can view it later. That's why I today exactly doing this. So please give me a sign if you hear me normally and sound is more or less normal. And can you see my screen also? Uh, Louder. Well, okay. For now, let's try to start. So if problem occurs, so please tell me. Well, okay, let's start from our homework about P count generation. So here somewhere I've got okay, somewhere I've got this magic formula. So what we needed to perform here. So we need to generate sequence from 1, 3, 5, and so on, so odd numbers. And we also need to count each operation number. So in such case, we could perform minus or plus operations of generated numbers. So let me create here one more comment. So 5, 7, 8, 11, and this is from the top. Here's odd numbers which we need to generate, and here we have operations ordinal number. So 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on. So here is the place where I've recommended to use this advanced for syntax and use more than one variable here. So we need to track these numbers and these numbers. So this we need to generate and this also. So let's use E for operation number. So let it be 0 from the start, and these numbers from 1, 3, 5, and so on, let it be another variable, for example, j. We can give already initial value of 1 here. And so how much we need to perform this operation? So here we have a number that tracks operation number, so it's literally our iterator. So we need here only to track operation count, so it's E here. And here we use just normal incrementation for our usual iterator, because so here we need to increment it just by 1, but we need to increment our this generated number by 2 for each operation. So here we have E++, comma, and j plus equal to. So this is advanced for loop syntax. So let's get back to formula. So this first one is so mathematically 1 divided by 1, that's also 1. And here was a hint how to get this real double type division result. So we have casted second parameter, so this generated number, to double. So double, I don't know. Let's let it be just n, for example. So let it be 1 divided by, so here we have to use this j, but but we need to cast it to double type to get a real result. So these currently two numbers, 1 and j, are integers. So we would not get real double result. So here even idea tells us that integer division in floating point context. So integer divided by integer wouldn't work if we want to get real double result. So here we perform cast to double. So to get real double result, we need to have at least one operand of type double. So here we'll have in this n, we will have 1 divided by 1, 1 divided by 3, 1 divided by 5, 1 divided by 7, and so on and so on. And now we have to, so we need to perform operations. So if this operation is odd, we have to use plus sign. If this is even, we need to assign to minus sign. So 0, we assume that 0 is odd operation, nepara operacija. So if we divide 1 by 1, we plus to some. If we divide 1 to 3, here we assign minus sign. So this. So how to know is operation even or odd? So we have done something similar with leap years. So here it is. E is our operation counter. So E divided by modulo by 2 is so it's equal to 0. So it's even number. Oh, so it's odd number, sorry. We will plus this result to sum. So here sum here is equal to sum plus n. So here we can write another if this result isn't equal to 0, but actually there are also only two possibilities. It's equal to 0 or it's not equal to 0 if we are dividing by modulo with 2. So the only result can be 0 or 1. So no other possibilities. So here, because of that, we can use here else. So if we are not performing addition, we're performing subtraction here. Okay, finally, we have done this operation 1000 times. And here, finally, we performing this multiplication and getting p number. Let's try. Does it work or no? So looks like let's increase operation count. So yes, this looks more or less precise result. Here I see 3, 14, 15. Yes, that's looks okay now. So with this exercise, I wanted to sorry. can see what's happening with my lock screen. So here I wanted to use this advanced for syntax when we used one more than one variable here declared. So more than one variable declared, one more variable adjusted at end of each loop iteration. So now, is this exercise clear? So everything is clear here. We can just for better understanding, we can use debug here. Yes, I think that will be a better idea. So I'll try this with just some iterations, not all 100,000s. So first we have declared sum and it's equal to 0. So anytime when we need when we need to count sum of some sequence, I don't know, when we need to understand this, we need to find something in some sequence or array. If we want to, we need to find maximum minimum number. So we always use some variable outside a loop, and we will use this variable in each, or okay, well, maybe not each iteration inside a loop, but we need to have some variable to handle result that's declared outside loop. So if we would declare sum inside here, inside loop, each iteration we had a new sum with initial value 0. So it wouldn't handle result from previous loop iterations. So on our first iteration, we have sum with value 0. We have E0, we have E1, and we have this calculated step also 1, because we have divided 1 by 1. So actually got 1. So we have plussed this to sum. So here this initial one, it's added to sum. So actually we could say that our initial sum is 1 and just forget about this 1 here and just start from 1/3. But well, actually we can put this 1 into as a part of a formula. So start from 0 and perform +1 from this with first iteration. So next we have 1 divided by 3. So this one, and we need to subtract this from our result. So here we got n is 0,3333, so it's 1/3. Now we need to subtract this from result. So we have got e is equal to 1. So if we are dividing 1 by modulo with 2, we getting 1. So we can check this. So how come we can check it? Yes. So this is one special debug hint to evaluate some expression out of usual flow. So just to check some variables. So here I got, if we are dividing 1 by modulo with 2, we're getting 1. So that's normal result. So then, so this expression now isn't true. So we are going here in subtraction from sum. So so subtraction is the same like we use minus sign here. Next, on here we got generated 5 from here. Okay, we're dividing 1 by 5, getting 0,2. And because e is currently 2, we're dividing by modulo by 2. So we here getting 0. And okay, so 0 is equal to 0, so we're getting inside here. So we're performing addition to our sum. Now you see that our sum performs a result of this initial 1, 1/3, 1/5, and will hold the result for all next operations. So next time we have e is equal already to 3, so this is even operation. Here we got 1 divided by 7, so this is the number, and we will subtract this from our sum. So here -1/7, and so on until we got this sum equal to some calculated number. We're multiplying this by 4 and getting final result. So if we need to check is this if this correct value, well, how can we check this? Okay, we can open Google and ask Google, is this correct number or not? So looks like this is more or less correct. So if we had okay 1 mile on operations or 10 mile on operations, we would got much more precise result. So it is better with debug. So do I need to debug and perform step by step commands for executing code? So you got wrong result with my solution, or? So result is more or less precise if you use so maybe we use different number of operations. So here I use 100,000 operations. So we can use these underscores to divide these three numbers. And yes, this may be precision error for my and your machines. So sometimes there can be difficulties. So it may be different on different operating systems. But I think if you increase this operation number, you will get a more precise result. So if you still got problems, you can PM me. I'll look at your solution and we can divide them. So we can check them one by one. So why sum is first is 0 here first, yes? So sum is equal to 0 because it need to have some initial value. And there's no other initial value other than 0 that is so neutral. So if we need to count, for example, numbers from 1 till 10, we need to put all these numbers into some box. So, and it would be logical if this box wouldn't have any value inside. So it would has a value of 0. So if it's everything clear here, and but you may have a little bit different results than mine, so you can send me a private message and we can look at these two solutions and understand where is the problem. So, and now I would like to check some new material. Let's create one more class in loop advanced package. Let's call it nested loops with main function inside as always. And just as always, please give me a sign when we on some checkpoints like new class generation or some example, because we have serious delay between when I talk and when you hear it. So it's approximately 10-15 seconds when I'm streaming to YouTube. So yes, thanks. If it's done, now let's think about our first conditionals. When we used ifs, elses, we understood that we can have any code inside if and else statements. So we could have so-called nested ifs, nested conditionals. So here with this day of week, not date validator, we had even switch inside else statement. We could have if inside another else and one more if else inside. So it's possible to put conditionals inside conditionals. The same approach we can use for loops. So actually we can have loop inside a new loop, another loop, when it is necessary. For example, one really easy example, if we need to print a multiplication table for counts, I don't know, from 1 till 10. So I have learned this I don't know, in first or third class. So I had this printed multiplication table, sticked to a table, and I have learned this, and my parents could ask me, could wake me up in the middle of night and ask me how much it will be 6 multiplied by 7. So now let's try to use for loops to print exactly same multiplication table. So what we need actually to do, we need to take one number, for example 1, and multiplicate this in a loop with another numbers from 1 till 10. So we need to multiply 1 by 2, by 3, by 4, and so on. When we complete this micro loop, we need to take next number. We need to take 2 and multiply this with all another numbers from 1 till 10. So we need to multiply 2 with 2, with 3, with 4, and so on. So let's start from first with first loop. So as usually, int e is equal to 0, e is less than 10, e plus plus. So we have declared outer loop. So we will take when we're talking about multiplication, we shouldn't multiply by 0. So let's take 1 here, first number. So, okay, now we got numbers from 1 till 10, which we will need to multiply with same numbers from 1 till 10, but we need to perform some loop inside here. So let's try. Let's try to write one more loop inside here. So just because this e is already used in outer loop, we cannot use it here more. So let's take just next letter from alphabet and let's create variable j. So here j is less than 10, j plus plus. So exactly the same, but with another variable. And what we so until e is 1, we will generate, okay, let's say generate 10 numbers that stored here inside j. So we can print this multiplication result. So on the first and okay, and space here. So on the first on first outer loop, we will have e is equal to 1, and we will multiply it with all numbers from 1 till 10. So we will go inside here this inner loop 10 times, and we'll multiply it with all variables, with all j's here. After so just to align it on the screen in better way. So here will be one line with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. We need to put here a new line. So just to get a square this multiplication table. So just print line with nothing. So but let's get it in some variable. Okay, let it be int result is equal e multiplied by j, and let's print this result. But you see we have some problem here. If so, just for aligning on the screen, if we need to somehow align together in one column numbers that are less than 10 and more than 10. So we can multiply 2 with 4 and get 8. This is one decimal number, and we need to align with together with some 2 decimal number. So I'll put this extra space. If result is less than 10, I'll just print extra space. So we'll look it step by step. For now, please just rewrite this code. Wow, you're really quick. So let's run and look. Yes, this is our multiplication table. Do you remember all this pain from math lessons in a school when teacher asked all these numbers from table? So now we can generate them. So now let's try to go step by step here. So I'll use debug just to show all the variable states. So here we have outer loop. So here we got initial e with value 1, and suddenly here we started a new loop with j is equal to 1 initial. So for now we have e is equal to 1 and j equal to 1. So we multiplied them, printed some extra space, printed result on the screen. So we have got our first result inside multiplication table. What happens next? We are going to start off this inner loop. We're getting back here. So now we have this j is equal to 2 and performing the same operations. So multiply, so e still remains 1. So we will go and update e value only after all only after this inner only after all code inside this loop will be executed. So just to get back to e update and start a new iteration of outer loop, we need to finish fully inner loop and print this extra new line. So currently we have to execute inner loop until j is less than 10. So just multiplying, so e still remains 1, and we are just increasing j. Okay, we are multiplying, printing. So here inside console I see how we get a new numbers here inside console. So we'll multiplying 1 with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and so on. Okay, finally we got j equal to 9. So now, so here our inner loop finished with 9 because here we got strict restriction less than 10. And finally we have finished our inner loop, printed this new line, and only now we're getting back to start of our outer loop, and only now we are adjusting this e value. Only now e becomes 2. And what happens next? This inner loop is just like created from scratch. So this j variable will become 1. So this loop is just initialized from the very beginning. So on each outer loop iteration, we have this inner loop started from the very beginning and perform all these operations so much times how it's told here. So on the end of previous inner loop, we had this variable of j equal to 10. So previously this inner loop has finished. For now, when we started a new outer loop iteration, this inner loop is started just from beginning, forgetting about all previous iterations. So now we have e is equal to 2 and j is equal to 1. Still we are multiplying them and printing. So we will get this result on the next line. So 2, 4, 6, 8, and so on. When we have this result, so why was necessary this extra space? Because here you see when we have two-digit number, we have to align them vertically with one-digit numbers. So for one-digit numbers, here I have added an extra space just to be in one line with two-digit numbers. Without this extra space, they would be let's say shrinked. I don't know how to say another way. So we would not have these nice columns. Okay, so here we have finished our second line, printed new line, and here e became 3, and just like previous time, our inner loop is initialized just from very beginning, and we have once more j is equal to 1, and we have to perform this multiplication 10 times. So e is now equal to 3, so we are multiplying 3 with all numbers from 1 till 10. So I don't think that we need to go through all these 70 operations. So I'll just finish this execution, and now we have this nice multiplication table here printed. So is that understood about how to use inner loops? Great. So we can combine. We can use while loop inside for loop. We can use ifs else's inside while and for loop. So this is not a problem. We in each let's say code block we can write another conditionals. So we can put loops inside ifs. We can put ifs inside loops. We can put loops inside loops, and we can combine these several loop types. For example, we can use while limited by some, I don't know, logical condition inside Boolean variable, and we can put inside a for. So that's absolutely normal. So very important moment here about this variable name. So if you have declared here e, you should not. It's often written just by mistake one more e here. So it would be so you cannot redeclarate one more e inside here. So you should be very accurate when you write this declaration, because I have seen sometimes when somebody just copied this internals from outer loop to inner loop, so got this j equal to 1 and I don't know, j less than 10 and e plus plus, for example. So it would be this would result into infinite loop. How to name these variables? So usually we are declaring for loop with e variable, and if we need nested loop, we use next alphabetical variable j. If we need to put one more for inside, so we will use next alphabetical letter K. But if you have more than two loops nested, so you should think about your program architecture, because that's not really that might cause performance problems later. Well, now we know about nested loops. So now let's take one more new topic, and where we can use where we will hardly use for loops, and sometimes we will even need to use these nested loops. So let's get back to our root directory src and create one more package called arrays. So these arrays, arrays package should be in one vertically in one line with this loop package. So they are on same level. So don't create arrays inside loops. So just only here in root directory. They should be hierarchically on the same level. And let's create a class inside. Let's call it array basics. With main function inside. So if it is done, let's get back to our theory. So let's start from motivation. Why do we need arrays? So imagine situation when our mystical customer comes to us and asks to calculate some trading data. For example, so we need to have stocks. Well, let's find something with gold. Just some charts. Okay, here's some chart, and our trader wants us to draw him some I don't know, maybe moving average line. So it's just a usual indicator that traders use. Okay, moving average, just to show what I'm talking about. So yes, so moving average is this line. So how can we calculate it? We take, for example, 200 previous results. So we calculate each point based on 200 previous results and calculating middle value. So chart is going like this, but moving average is going like this. So it works just like some trending line. And you see, we need to use previous 200 values. But user can tell, okay, no, 200, that's too slow, moving average, let's use 50. Wow. So we have still trending line, but but it's more informational maybe. So user problem is that we have to store a huge amount of same type variables. So if we would store them in MR1, MR2, MR3, and so on variables, we would so our code would be really unreadable if we would store all these values inside in separate variables. And the second problem, sometimes we even didn't know how much variables we should use. So here, user can tell use 50, or maybe inside just some other indicator, he needs to use only 26, for example, and get some other interesting results. So that's about motivation. So arrays, it is one big variable that can contain multiple same type values. For just like with the example I've described above, if we need to calculate moving average for 200 last values, so we can have one variable of type array, which will hold just 200 last this ticker prices. So just one variable that can hold a lot of same type data. If we need to somehow store 200 integers, so we can use array of integer. It would be nearly impossible to have in code 200 separate integer variables, but we can have one array for that. So now let's more technical about arrays. So array is a container object that holds a fixed number of values of a single type. So array is always fixed size, and it always stores only one type of variables. So we cannot use dynamically sized array. So it's if we have declared array of length 10, well, we can not to use all 10 let's say slots, but we cannot try to put inside 11th value. So Java runtime wouldn't allow to do it. We will get serious problems when we will try to run that. And just because of previous length established when created. So once we have created array, we can with fixed length, we cannot redefine its length. No way to do it. So if we have created it with length 10, so only this length, only 10, we can put here inside only 10 variable, only 10 elements. So yes, each item in an array is called element, and each element is accessed by its numerical index. So normally with just single integer variable, we are using it by its name. But when we use array, so we can, of course, act with array itself, with whole array. But if we need only one of its element, we can access it by numerical index. Just with example above. So we can have array that contains 200 these prices for each time frame. So here we have 1 day. So each day have its price for gold. Yes. So we can have array that contains these prices for 200 last days, and we need to take each one of them and calculate value. So we need to take first element in this array. We need after that take next element, and so on and so on. So they can be accessed by index. I'll show you how that looks like in a code. So yes, that's how arrays are declared. So we can have arrays of several types. So just because we cannot use array to store everything inside it, so we're declaring array of some type. Array of, here it is array of integers. So we can put only integers here. Next we give name, just like for each variable, equality sign, and here's new keyword new. But actually we have already used this day of week. Yes, we already know this keyword new. And here we say int with then we use the square brackets and length of array. Let's go back to idea and try it. So int. So just for just to compare with simple variable. So first let's define simple integer variable and after that array. Now please rewrite these 2 lines of code. Okay, and let's look on differences. So simple integer variable has type int without any square brackets. It has name, and here we can define its initial value. When we're talking about arrays, type here is can be it's also int, but with these special square brackets. So so this is type. Here is name, just for any variable, and here we give initial value. So we use this keyword new. Here we use type int, and here we say it's not initial value, but it is size of array. Actually, it's length. So when we are creating new array, defining new array, we always should provide its size. we can provide it in a two-way. So we can say that this array is of size 10, so we just write by hand this size. Or we can use another syntax. We will create array and assign its default values. So, for example, this. Please add this line of code here too. We will compare this two declaration types. So what's the difference between these lines 7 and 8? So type of this variable, it's the same. So it's array of integers. And well, okay, of course we have different variable names. We cannot use the same. In first case, we define an empty array of integers with 10 elements inside. Here we have created a new array of integers. We do not write here length because this length is computed by Java compiler. So here we give 6 values inside. So we are initializing this array with known values. So actually this will be 4, 8, minus 3 and so on. So we have declared array with 6 values, and we do not have to write this number here because it will be calculated. So we actually shouldn't do this because we can write. So we have 6 values, but if we write here something like this, so we have declared with length 3, but try to put here 6 values. So that's impossible for Java compiler. So these are two ways to declare an array. First way, when we do not know initial values, so just an empty array. Actually, it will have 10 zeros inside. Next, when we know initial values, but therefore we do not have to write its length when declaration happens. And so how to get these array variables, array elements by its number? This so-called numerical index. So usually we have we will use word index. So int L1, L it's for element. So for example, like this. So these square brackets and number inside, this is index. So 3 is index. So with these square brackets, we can get a third element of array. So here we have used square bracket. During declaration, we use these square brackets to first to tell the variable type, and here we use this number inside the square brackets to define variable to define array length. So it's used just for declaration. Next, when we use the square brackets with number inside, it is necessary to get element, single element of an array. So my first programming coding teacher at university also used this taste analogies. So he tried to imagine array like a long sausage inside operating memory. So imagine this is a sausage inside a memory, and these are just elements that can store a single integer here inside. So these cells inside this array are uh, exactly same size, so they can contain only one type elements. And here so when we need to get some element from this array, so we need to get a particular this element, not any other else. We need to get just this. So it is called element at index 8 here. And so we need element at index 3. So this is the syntax to use, how to get single element of array. And so you see that array type is int with these square brackets. So this variable type is integer array. So we can have array of strings, for example. And so single element of integer array is actually single integer. So if we are talking about this example with moving averages, so we can we could theoretically use 200 integer variables or one array with size of 200. So now let's just print these two variables, and let's look on results we've got here. Okay, if it's done, let's try to run. So first one element is from first array got value 0, and another one got value 5. So for first element, why it got value 0? Actually, we did not specified that this so values of this array. So if we create array this way and do not say initial values of int will be zeros. So I think just for any numerical types, default values will be zeros. Did you use here first? Did you print it L2 here, and did you use this second array here when we declared L2 element 2? Did you get it from second array? And for second array, when we try to get this third element, here's the one thing that differs programmers from other people. So programmers start to count from 0. So this is not first element. This is zeroth element, or I don't know how to call it directly. But first element is this, but this is zeroth element. So when we say here we want to get element by index 3, so this is zeros, this is first, second, and third. So that's why EL2 is equal to this 5. Okay, so what can we do and what can we can't do here with arrays? So we cannot use negative index. So array with negative index, so it's possible to write, but that's not possible to get. So we cannot get element from array that's less than 0. So 0 it's first element of array. So we cannot get elements with negative index. So this number that we put here inside square brackets is called index. And we cannot get element that is out of array bounds. So here we got 6 elements. If I try to get element by index 15 from this array, so here we got only 10 elements. If I try to get by number 15, so syntactically that's correct, but I will have problems in a runtime. So let's just for interest, let's try to do this. And let's run. Let's see how it looks like to know how to react on this mistake if we got such. So let's run and look on mistakes that we got here. So you should get something like this array index out of bounds exception. Did you get such? So what does this exception says? Index 15 out of bounds for length 10. So uh, that's really not in Java style, but this exception says uh, uh, exactly what it does need to say. So we have array with length 10, so we cannot get 15th element. So it's just like there's some building with 10 rooms inside. You came to a building and try to find room number 15. So you will not find it. So let's just comment this element getting. So I'll put here copy pasted number type of exception. So just to know what does it mean and how to react on this. So if you got this exception, that means you trying to get element that is out of length of this array. So your array length is less than number you are trying to get from it. Well, so how can we change array value? So here we can change all array, and we can change array element. So first, uh, change all array. So like we have done this for simple integer variables. So earlier we had value of 5, now we have value of 7. So that's how we done this for simple integers. Now, so let's do something with first array. So we can say that now this is just another array. New int, and let's okay, let it be with some initial values. So 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. So now this is just new array. So this old is now just abandoned and leaves its last seconds inside operating memory before it is utilized by garbage collector. So now we have assigned a simply new array. So earlier we had this array, now it's new array. So here you can use another type of array. So here you can use only the same type. So it can be only new int. And how can we change element of array is also getting it by index. For example, I want to change this 5 on something else. So I take here index 3 because it's third element. So zeros first, second, third. Let's its value be, I don't know, 12. And now let's print this one more time. So look, I can also print single element of array the same way like other variables. So I can write also like this. Put it inside system out println. But okay, let's copy paste this print to on the screen before and after. Not here 3 times. So before, when this was another array, after array reference, so aside creating a new array, and after changing single element. So 3 cases here. Please write them all. Okay, let's run it. So you should get same results. So on a line 23, we have printed old array element with index 3. So in old array we had all zeros inside. So here it is 0. After we have changed this array, all array, I mean, uh, we have the element with value 5 at index 3. Next, we have changed this value. So here, like this on the screen. So we have just injected a new value inside this single cell. So we changed value of this cell inside array and printed this one more time, and look, that's values that we have assigned recently. So the most common mistake that I have seen is trying to assign some value to array. So this actually won't work because these two are incompatible types. So array isn't just a single value. So array it's always a bunch of values. So this assigning, trying to assign a single value to array, so this wouldn't work. And for now, so before going further, let's create a break. So I will finish this translation and let's get back in 15 minutes past 8. Okay?